I've had the pleasure of chatting with Anne and Ron on multiple occasions. And what I really enjoy is getting into the informal discussions and the learnings I managed to receive from that. So I kind of asked them if they would join me today, but more of it a setting of discussion and freely sharing as much as they can about their business, about their learnings, and how they go about making decisions. I often have the opportunity to talk to all of you, actually, and I see that there's often a common thread. As leaders, we have challenges. We have to overcome those challenges, and from that, we grow. And so for me, this morning is about having an informal chat and about some of that. I've prepared a few questions on that, but what I'd like to do, if I may, and if you could make a little bit of a quick introduction, each of you, and just to give to give everyone context of your organization and to your roles in that organization.
All right, thank you, Antonio. Good morning, everybody. I am Anna Alingog-Lazzari. I am the President and CEO of Country Funders Finance Corporation. It's the lending arm of the Rapali Group of companies. We provide financing solutions to Filipinos who have thin or poor credit history but would like to borrow for productive uses. Mainly our products are motorcycle financing, capital financing, agribusiness loans that are available nationwide. We take pride in making our financial services simple and approachable, and that are designed to make or help augment the livelihood of our borrowers.
Thank you. Ron.
So, good morning, everyone. I'm Ron Recto. I am the president of Rural Bank San Antonio. We're a traditional rural bank. I think that speaks for itself. We do community-based banking. We provide loans and other financial services to the communities that we're a part of, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. So one of the keys, and obviously one of the things that we engage in is technology and the role of technology. If I may, I'd like to ask you both, what is the role of technology in your organization, and what are some of the key objectives that you want to achieve using technology?
So when we started the operations of the business, and we are fairly new in the sector, we've been operating for 5 years. We had that mindset that to be able to be competitive, we need to be efficient, because there are a lot of other players in the sector that have a lot of bigger resources. They've been there for a long time already, and they have relatively lower cost of funds. Like banks, for example, they can source it at a lower cost of funds. But for us, we're new, so we need to be very efficient in how we do things. And that's why we made sure, and until now we're doing that, but in everything that we do, it's always powered by technology. And that's to support the key pillars of our business, which is excellent customer experience, efficiency, and good governance. So that's really at the core. Technology is really at the core of how we do things.
So dealing with competition, and how do you manage resources compared to the bigger resources that competition might have?
So we use technology to be able to, because we know that our cost of funds, at the very beginning, it's higher than banks, for example. So we invest in technology to be able to bring our cost of operations lower, have more people who will be more productive instead of doing manual work, for example. So it's in terms of allocation, it's really more investment in technology so our people can have more productive and meaningful work.
Ron?
I think it comes from a more personal place. Just coming into the organization, as most of you know, rural banks are typically run by families, and so When you come into the organization, you bring with you your own experiences with technology and how you deal with the kind of day-to-day office concerns. And one thing that I observed when I came into the organization was that things were running quite inefficiently, because I had sort of work experience outside of this group, and so kind of coming into it, I had some expectations about how the day-to-day was supposed to go and how work was supposed to flow through the organization, and it just didn't look that way. And so, quite like just from a personal experience, you have your smartphones and you have my previous work, we communicated very frequently through email, or we would share documents on Google Drive. Those what to me were sort of basic tenets of how you conduct work just wasn't present. And so I think just at that level, we saw, or rather I saw, that there was some need for some change in how we conduct our operations. And then you start to see, oh, well, if you look at the organization and you look at not just in terms of efficiency, but you look in terms of capabilities or capacity for work. I started tracking our deposit and loan portfolio, and at a certain point in the history of the organization, it just plateaued. And it didn't make any sense to me, because if you're pushing and growing the team, of course, work and output should increase, but it just plateaued. It just was stuck at a certain number, and it would go up and down for a couple of years. And I was talking to the team, and it dawned on me that it was mostly because the reason why we couldn't grow was because we were sort of stuck doing the same repetitive thing. And if you talk to people about what their day-to-day activities are, and aspirationally they will say, I'm talking to new clients, I'm marketing new products, and then you sit down and then you observe them, you'll see that actually less than 15% of their time is actually doing those things. So I actually sat down and I observed what was going on in our organization, and I saw that a lot of it was sitting down, writing down reports, kind of talking with colleagues in the branch, doing all of these things that were not directly tied to growing the business. And so it came back to, okay, well, that's why the portfolio isn't growing. That's why our business, our customer base wasn't growing. It's because everything, what our team could do had reached the point of, this is the capacity of that team. Which is, I think, why it resonated earlier what Julian said was about enabling the team. It's just, how do we push that further?
The team, yeah. And if I may, you mentioned you joined the group. You joined the family business. How did you manage to navigate going in and changing the mindset? Obviously, this is not very easy. You were coming in there bright-eyed, all this energy, technology can make things more efficient. How did you navigate that? Did you immediately get support, some challenges? I mean, I know where this is going, but no, I don't know.
I don't know. I think maybe you have the same experience, right? Because it's fairly common, and I had a lot of opportunities to talk with other sort of family business groups, and when we compare notes, it's always the same problems. And it used to be a point of frustration that you have these expectations of change, right, when you come into the organization, but and I think that's a high point of frustration, where in your mind it's clear that these are the goals and these are the things that you need to accomplish, but then in execution it takes 5, 10, 20 times longer than what you thought it would be, right? And so I think the most I can say to that is just that I'm dealing with those concerns on a daily basis. Um, the what it, the thing that gives me some comfort is that people always tell me that it takes years. Yeah. So
My case, I was lucky enough. Well, it's also a family business. I was lucky enough to start the company operations from the ground up. So that's why at the very beginning we were already have that digital first mindset. But also, I understand what you're saying that you just jump into a sea and then you start you try to swim and solve everything day by day. But in our case, what we're doing is really to understand what they're going through, right? So you solve step by step, like why is it manual? What can we do? And it would take years, but then trying to understand where they are and trying to address what they're doing, whether it's a customer or it's internally, like your employees, then that's when you start having a buy-in in whatever you want them to achieve or whatever you want the company to achieve, because you're also helping them do their work. And yeah, I guess also technology has a huge role in that, like how you organize their work and all that.
So if I hear you correctly, you're getting buy-in from the operational team, the day-to-day execution. How do you manage at a board level? Is that something that's decided at a board level? Do you take that to the board? How far does the board get involved?
So what's good with a family business? It's family. Decision making is quick, right? But it's really, as you mentioned, I guess I don't know if it's the same for you, but but you have to have a sponsorship from the board, because you will need resources to be able to drive change as well, right? So there should be a strong tone and sponsorship from the board level, but driving whatever change that you want to do, everybody must take part on it. So, but yeah, in the case of a family business, decision making, it's fairly quick than, I guess, more established, more multinational companies, for example.
Similar experience?
yeah, generally I think it's similar, but I think where maybe what I can add to this is it's really have to feel it out. I think whether or not the organization or the family business is ready for digital transformation or taking a step in this direction that all of the motifs and themes of this event sort of seem to indicate or seems to point to, there has to be some that has to be already the direction that the business is going. Otherwise, you're fighting a losing battle.
Out of curiosity, how did you choose Oradian?
Well, we were looking for first a tech partner who has the same goals as us. I mean, in our case, it's really financial inclusion. That's what we want to drive. And so we want a tech partner that would understand what we require. Because if they are aligned with our goals, then it's easier for us to make requests. It's easier they understand what we're going through, because they also understand the market that we serve. So that's first on our checklist, a tech partner that has the same goal as us. Second is a tech solution that is flexible, because we started with a lot of different solutions that we created, or it's a proprietary solutions that we want to continue keeping, because these are unique to us, right? And we want a tech solution that is flexible, that will allow us to use things and will not force us to change the way we do things, but rather it will enhance further the processes or the practices that we believe are unique to us. So those two things, Oradian was checked, and we've been happy with a partner of Oradian for 5 years now, and so far it's been great sharing with Oradian.
Thank you. Ron?
Yeah, I think it's so. Of course, we did all the due diligence. There had to be some buy-in from the board for some digital transformation or to move it towards this direction. We went through all that, but I think it was more the stars aligning, kind of, because actually it's sort of also fortuitous that this is where this event is being held, because I had graduated here. This is where we held our graduation ceremonies for the graduate school I attended, and it was in that graduate school that there was a presentation from Oradian. There was someone from Oradian who was in that. There was a class, and in that class we were talking about. I had taken that elective because it had to do with microfinance. It had to do with the business that I was about to enter, and somehow there was a person talking about all of these things and all of these business problems that I had encountered and all of these business solutions that they were offering. And it wasn't in a sort of marketing sense. It was just in a purely academic exploration perspective. So the name sort of stayed with me. And then when we went through that process of talking to suppliers, of talking to system providers, I put in the name, okay, we contact Oradian. And then we went through the due diligence. We were talking to different system providers. And then just at the end of that assessment, we said, okay, well, Oradian is the one.
Thank you. So what I recall when we set out, some of the things that we heard was the consolidation of the product, stability, reporting. I'm assuming we managed to reach those expectations. Was there anything that I would say from your selection process till now, anything that you learned that you weren't expecting at that stage?
Well, with our experience, right? It was a quick process with, we migrated into Aradia, into Instafin in 2 weeks, and we managed to integrate all our systems with Oradian and with our partners within 6 months, because it was fairly easy. And that was a surprise, because we had previous experience with other third party that you have to customize and all these rules. It took us years to be able to do such things. But for us, the readiness of the APIs was something that caught us by surprise, and we managed to do it in a very short period of time. And so that helped us really reach more markets, and prepared us for the pandemic that we didn't even expect was going to happen.
Well, I think it's the challenges that we experienced had to do more with whether or not our organization was ready to move in that direction. So it wasn't so much if there were challenges with laying over the system over our existing processes, because what we found in just my personal experience going through that implementation, there were a lot of recommendations from the Oradian implementation team. They would show us, okay, this is your business process, and we're finding certain inefficiencies in this part of the process. And on our side, we said, okay, let's work together to change that. Let's on our side, and it's not because I think that when I've spoken to others about this, there's this perspective that ours is the best. Like there's this perspective that my process is the best process. And so I want a solution that can adapt to my ways. And at least in our experience, that wasn't the case. We recognized that there were gaps in our own process, and there were gaps that we could not fill on our own. And so by adapting or by using this system or this software, we opened ourselves up to say, okay, whatever you recommend, whatever business process that we can drum up during this implementation, during this assessment, we'll adapt that.
And how did you navigate that with the team? Obviously, change management is challenging. How did you ensure that people were open to change the way they were working, as well as trust an unknown way of working?
So how we did it is we really try to understand what they're trying to do. Well, our employees, even our customers, our clients, how do they pay, their behavior. And that's what we try to address. That's why we have also other systems. And also with Oradian, they're very flexible with the fields and all that. And that's the first thing that we did. Are we trying to address their pain points? The second one, it's really, because it's easier when everybody has a buy-in, right? It's easier to make them use the technology that you want them to use. It's not enough that you have the technology, but it's really, are they going to use it? Are they going to adapt to it? Your employees, your organization, your customers. So that's the first thing that we did. There will be buy-ins if we're trying to address what their pain points are. Even our employees, like, I don't want to do this manual thing, then okay, we'll automate that. Our customers, I don't want to go to your branch because you don't have branch. We didn't have branch. How can we pay more flexibly in terms of time? So those are the things that we try to address. But I told you this, when change management really is really cutting the old ways, as I mentioned, you're burning the old ways, because otherwise they will always have an option to go back to, because that's where they're comfortable in, right? So they will always have a choice to go back to the old ways. So what we did really, when we're very comfortable with the systems that we had and it's functioning as designed, then we cut everything.
So you kind of threw out the old, this is the way we do it.
It has to be that way. Otherwise, it'll just be a cycle. But of course, you have to be creative on how you were going to do that. How are you going to convince them? How are you going to incentivize them?
I think there's going to be a lot of questions is how do you just burn that process?
You need to understand your organization, what tickles them, what scares them. So it's a balance of both, right? So we give a lot of training. Of course, they have to understand how it works, but then what's in it for them? That's the thing. So we have to give them creative ways on trying, understanding it, and then if not, then there's also something to, like a performance rating. You also include that in their performance rating adoption. So this kind of like practical ways to be able to drive the adoption. But I guess for us, it's equally important for our employees to adapt to the technology that we have embraced, because it's going to be such a waste of investment if it's just there but it's not being used. Yeah.
See, I hear you saying is you work with different parts of the organization, you get deep understanding their problems, encouraging them, going onto an HR level, making it part of the performance review. It sounds like a lot of work. Is it worth it? Is it worthwhile turning the whole organization around to use technology?
Definitely. It's really, one of the goals is really to optimize our cost, right? So we have achieved that when we have onboarded and we have migrated our system into a new system. One specific example is that we were able to automate our loan origination to loan booking to account management, the entire life cycle of an account. We were able to automate that, and that we got rid of the manual transactions for our employees. And as a result, almost 100 of our employees, we were able to upskill. We were able to repurpose their function. Instead of just doing manual transactions, we were able to give them more meaningful work, more value-adding work, such as customer-facing, solving the problems of our customers, reaching new markets, sales. So these things, we saved a lot of cost because we didn't have to hire additional people when we wanted to grow our market, because we just repurposed this 100 employees. 100 employees when we were able to at least automate a huge chunk of our process.
One of the things you never mentioned, I didn't catch you mention there, but what I thought was really great when you're saying, what I visualize is you reduced your back office effectively and put everyone front office, you upskill them, the work became more meaningful, but they were able to earn more. So although the organization was becoming more efficient, you save costs, their actually lives improved and they were able to make more money as individuals. And I thought that was a really great insight. So it's about changing the dynamics of the organization.
Yeah, it's when we realized that, we have this 100 people, that what are they going to do? We were not really thinking ahead, like, because we didn't expect that will be the case. And then we're like, we have 100 people. Are we going to cut them out? But no, that's when the pandemic hit. And we managed to use this 100 people to do calling, to do remote work first. Second is to do calling, do sales, do collections. So that really reduced a lot of, or saved us a lot of costs.
Ron, any learnings on that front?
No, I was thinking, I don't know if I'd be qualified to speak on that front, because admittedly we're not as successful on the change management front. There are a lot of things that we have, a lot of challenges that we face, and maybe the most I can say is what not to do, which is don't just tell them, don't just say, okay, this is your new role. This is the new process. Because I think that if just reflecting on our experience, or my experience with implementing a new system, a lot of the work that we had initially done was just, okay, this is your new role. We're rolling this out as a memo, just as changes in your day-to-day responsibilities, changes in the process. And that was that was mostly it. Yeah. So we thought about the things that you had done, I think repurposing, but that was all that was all happening in real time rather than as part of the pre-planning phase for implementation.
So this is great if we look backwards at how the organization changes, the impact on people. I know you mentioned earlier on about feeling the pressure to compete with some of the bigger financial institutions. How do you feel today about your readiness to compete? How do you feel like you're able to go and embrace this market opportunity?
So in the past 5 years, we've been focusing on automating, digitizing our data, because that's very important. Now we're more confident because we are able to reach new markets. We're able to reach new regions in a very quick way. We don't have to put up brick and mortar. We managed to do away with that. And so I think we're ready to, because what we did, we have to set the foundation internally before we even really push our products out there. Otherwise, it'll just fail, because we want to make financial services very simple. But then if our operations internally is a mess, it's slow, then how can we claim that? So for the past 5 years, that's what we've been trying to develop. And I think we're as ready as other institutions, fintech, to offer products in a much simpler and approachable way. And and reach new markets.
Ron, in terms of differentiating our, at least from rural banking perspective, because as I understand, I think for motorcycle lending, they're basically one-off customers. You acquire them, and then afterwards, they can apply for another motorcycle, but that's the extent of the relationship. And there's no really sort of account holder, there's no account manager for that client. It's like a car loan where you don't really have a representative from the bank talking to you about, hey, how's everything? Is your car doing okay? And I think that from a rural banking perspective, what we're able to do more of today is put aside all of the operational work, put aside all of the reporting work, and just talk to our clients more. And I think this is what gives us, or hopefully, what we're banking on is hopefully it'll give us an edge over time. Because if you're thinking about financial services and, let's say, banking in general, I would say it's mostly you're trying to acquire long-term customers. And long-term customers means that there's a relationship that's built between your institution and those clients, which previously we were not necessarily able to do because, again, all of the internal reporting work, all of the mindset of those account managers when it comes to just their day-to-day, it's always about, okay, I'm trying to meet my month-end, year-end targets, as opposed to how are we really servicing our clients. And I think just trying to push that mindset to, okay, look, you don't have to do anything with regard to this report. You don't have to submit these reports, and you don't have to do anything really outside of talk to your clients about what they need, and knowing our portfolio of products, try and help them with their financial problems or financial needs. So in a way that I think larger commercial banks might not be able to do, I suspect.
And do you feel that starts giving you a competitive edge, where in the past you might have seen the larger banks having the competitive edge? Do you feel you can start competing to them with your uniqueness and your capabilities that maybe they can't?
Yeah, because I don't think we're really competing in the same space, really. I think that there's a profile of clients that typically shy away from commercial banks or universal banks. And if they do, I think they're looking for someone who can sort of weed through all of the regulatory requirements and sort of pick and choose what they can, what will be beneficial for their clients. I don't know if commercial bank managers are incentivized to do this, where if they're talking to clients, do they try to, if a client is missing particular requirements, they just walk away. They say, well, you're not our client. You're not within our profile of those we serve. So this is where we can sort of step in, where particularly in the rural areas. So we're sort of just doubling down on the services that we're offering in those farther flung areas.
If I challenge you a little bit, if I look at the macro picture of the Philippines, there's still a vast number of unbanked, badly banked. Everyone would like to add that market or create that into a market, and I assume banks as well. So maybe in their current stage, they don't seem that they'll be going down. They'll be producing a service for them, but with time, they'll either be acquiring, they'll coming in with different brands, and they'll find a way to win those customers. Do you feel that, or do you still think that there's always going to be a separation? The BDOs will service one market, rural banks another, or there be a blurriness occurring?
I think eventually they will catch up, right? They will, with the availability of technology these days, and a lot of, especially in the Philippine market, a huge chunk of the labor force are digital natives. So with resources, these banks would be able to reach this market. But that's why right now we have to start capturing this market, and as you mentioned, creating a longer term relationship with them. Because I think financial services these days, it's also the relationship and the reliability on your services that would keep them with you, or you can keep them within your system or your services.
I think I'm a bit more generally skeptical about digital adoption from the point of view of just how communities are structured in outside of Metro Manila. So I mean, very easily, if you just go outside of Metro Manila, you look at a small town, even if they have internet access, even if they have smartphones, they're still largely different behaviors. And it's not about the technology that's present, but just about, I think, just infrastructure that's there. Like there's no active nightlight, just as an example. And so there are those indicators of, I think, I mean, they're not necessarily, how do you put it, geared towards that mindset of like, oh, I'm going to engage with financial services in this way. I'm going to talk to my bank just through my phone, And I think there's still a heavy mindset, as much as many are playing the customer acquisition game of, okay, I have this idea that the customer is like this, and they have a smartphone, therefore they will, as long as we have loans available digitally, and that's how they will apply. But again, like you're looking at what are your core competencies, what are your differentiators, and I think the identity of the institution has to play a role in how you're acquiring customers. So sure, maybe there are those, okay, I can get a 5,000 peso loan, no problem. Like I'll apply online. But then if you're, let's say, a local businessman, you're starting, you want to start a small eatery in your town, you're not gonna, I would think that having local support would be more in your mind, where I'm going to talk to this person that I know in the town who has access to capital in order for me to grow my business, as opposed to just
getting an instant plan.
Yeah. And so with the Insafin, or with using a system like this, it's so versatile that while it's an option that we can be on those mobile apps, instead we're using it in a different way, where we're just trying to enable our marketing staff, our marketing division, to be more present with their customers.
Well, one thing that we saw in our operations with our payments, we saw a huge uptake in the use of GCash.
Mm-hmm.
So in what he's saying, I think it's just a matter of time that the market that we serve will be able to be more comfortable in using technology for financial services. And that's what we are all preparing for. But I guess it's a case-to-case kind of thing, like depends on the requirement that you need as a financial service. Then maybe you're more comfortable dealing with an account officer than just the mobile app, for example. But in our case, maybe in retail financing, it's very apparent that we saw a huge adoption in payment through GCash. Almost 80% they're already paying through GCash. So that's an insight.
And that was driven, what kind of spiked that drive, that behavior change?
We also drove it.
Okay.
We drove it. That's the thing. What we're trying to do is we want to become omnipresent. We want We don't want to be too advanced in terms of technology for our customers, but we don't want to be very behind, right? So we try to invest in different customer touch points, and wherever they're comfortable, then they can use. It's either face-to-face or they can use digital technology, but we're trying to drive these touch points. We train them. We train them how to use GCash. We train them how to go to payment centers. These things, we invest in this so that the value of that is we can do away with a brick and mortar kind of thing and reaching more clients than just transacting payments.
So when you make a decision to integrate with another third party, when you're integrating in new payments, you're taking on board as well the aspect of marketing, education, changing the behavior of those individuals.
Yeah, even adoption, as I mentioned, not only internally, but also for our customers, because the type of market, they're farmers, they're tricycle drivers, but they're on Facebook. They know how to use Messenger. So they can use smartphone. Then you just have to teach them how to use it. But it really takes a while, and you really have to be patient to drive that.
It's a dynamic market, and it's changing very, very quickly. In the face of the Philippine market, its full potential and its growth, how do you feel about working and talking what some might say are competitors? I mean, your businesses today, you represent the rural bank and financing, but there's overlap within the group, and you kind of know each other's businesses quite well. I mean, how do you feel about working and talking with different organizations?
I mean, I'm here, I'm sharing our practices, what we have done. I think Philippine market is a growing market. It's a young market, and the labor force, as I mentioned earlier, digital natives are joining more and more, taking up the space, the labor force. And they are very young. They will require more financial services. And it's a huge market, and it can accommodate more players. There's no problem with partnership. Most of many of what we do, we have partners. We partner with payment centers, we partnered with you, partnered with other banks as well in terms of other products that we have. But it's as long as there's market and there's a need, then there's always a room for collaboration.
So collaboration before competitiveness.
Oh, yeah. Because there's also an advantage in terms of collaborating. We get economies of scale, marketing, these things. You can also, if you look at it, if you just be open to it, there's cost savings also with what you can do. Because for us, for example, we believe that we cannot do everything. And maybe we can find a partner that has complementary products that can, be in parallel with what we offer, and we can, we can offer both. But that's something that we're open to doing.
Ron, we've often spoken a lot about education, and we share a common theme here. But where do you see this collectiveness and communities and the role of education playing a part of this competitiveness versus collaboration?
I think collaboration, maybe, I suspect there's hardly any, my idea of the services that we provide are there's, from the point of view of the customer, there's not much differentiation. We're just trying to provide financial services, and nothing is really, I might be wrong here, but nothing to me appears entirely proprietary in terms of how we conduct our business. Everything is just how the team is built, how the team perceives the services that we offer, and the way that we provide our business to our clients. And so I think what we're developing is, of course, technology seems to be developing in parallel with businesses. So there are innovators on the technology side who will look at, okay, I'm going to streamline this process. I can make providing loans much easier. But on the customer side, it's still, you're engaging with people. Like I was looking at the industry kind of financial information about how much of banks' earnings go into its different expense items. And one thing that was consistent is that I think a lot of it goes into compensation, right? And my assumption there is that it's because the way that these services are delivered is through people. So to some extent, why I feel comfortable sharing, kind of openly talking about our business operations is because I think you get as much as you put in. So as much as I'm trying to kind of talk about the challenges of running this business or the challenges that we encounter on a day-to-day, somewhere in the ether of things, it comes back as, oh, somebody will reach out and say, oh, I experienced those problems too, and this is what we did. And I go, okay, well, maybe that's something that we can. So there's something about it that even though you're sharing the way that you've solved that problem, it might not necessarily be how we solve those. Like the way that we solve the same problem might not be similar, and it's really entirely dependent on the team that you have. So that's why it's not proprietary, but it's just, it gives you an idea of how to approach it with the resources that you have. If that makes any sense.
I think it does. Let me ask the audience, does it make sense? Do we maybe have a question for this great panel? Any questions from the audience or something to clarify? So I think it makes sense.
You can disagree and you can say that there's something that's proprietary, but I somehow cannot see, apart from the technology which just runs parallel to the business operations, which again, to some degree we're all using the same back end, really. So,
and I think to your point, it's a set of tools, but it's how you use those tools. Everyone has access to wood, stone, string, and so forth, but what do you do with that combination becomes unique. And one of that is building your team, building your company culture. How do you adapt? I really reflect on, I appreciate some of the insights. Often I find myself talking to financial institutions and they're giving me a very strong picture on this is their formula for success, hence they cannot change that formula. Hence, they reach a ceiling, like you identified. Technology can leverage the perception of what's a ceiling and what's not a ceiling. You can start changing the resources you have, upskilling them to add more value, taking mundane tasks out. So what I see is that although the tools are really the same, and the end product is exactly the same. You're basically providing a financial service at a different rate, whatever you can cope as a risk. But how you mix that up becomes the secret sauce to increase your leverage, to reach more clients, to better offer a service, or to be competitive. I saw a hand pop up here, so I'd love to get a microphone. Here.
Hi, good morning. I'm Rafi Ayen from the Daily Tribune. Can I just ask, how many customers have you gained by embracing digital transformation in your operation?
So we started, when we migrated into InstaFin, we have about 5,000 clients. And now we probably service more than 300,000 clients in 4 years. And,
wow. Yeah. 5 to 300,000.
And you, sir?
How many? I think her answer is better.
Because we started very small, so the growth is like from small one to.
I like the answer.
You can say. I think, like from what I said earlier, we can say that our goal is to develop deeper long-term relationships. So this is not an excuse that we didn't grow. Anyway,
Yeah. But I think to your point earlier on, Anna, you mentioned is we took 5 years to prepare. And I think that's really important when you discuss some strategy, is that it's not an on switch. It's not a case of just, I'm going to buy the technology and all of a sudden this magic happens. It sounds like there's been a lot of effort, thoughtfulness, tackling each area of the business, making sure that you're bringing on board every area of the business. And so I think often that kind of gets hidden in the background. It's lovely to hear that result. We've gone from 5 to 300, but it took 5 years of preparation. It took all those blood, sweat, and tears to make sure that everyone's on board to prepare.
Yes, because we want to, as I mentioned, we want to focus on your customer experience. And even if your marketing, your sales team are very good at selling, but at some point, your customers will know whether your product is something that adds value to their life, and your process and how you service them is really something that they're addressing their pain points. So we didn't want to be there to be out there if we're not ready internally. So that has been the mindset until now. And of course, the growth is really through partnership. It's not just because we have this system and then we grew. It's also, as you mentioned, it's really collaboration with other businesses in the sector. That's how we manage to continuously grow the client base that we have.
yeah, I think now I remember.
I was buying you some time.
Yeah, now I remember. Okay. No, because as I said, we were sort of, we plateaued, and then I don't think we've ever really experienced above single digit growth, and it goes up and down. So if you track it over, the last I recall from the figures, it's for the last 10 years, it's roughly between 3 to 6%. So, and it goes up and down. But just in the last year alone, if I recall correctly, it's around 12 to 14%. So you can quantify it as what is that? That's at least 3x from the previous, not absolute value wise, of the anyway. Yeah, so you can just put there 12%.
Any other questions? Thank you, Rafi, for that.
Hi, good morning. Don from Westmin Lending. I'd just like to ask, how do you manage to balance, of course, with Oradian Institute, there's a push towards the digitalization, but how do you balance that with the human touch, the human aspect that, as Antonio mentioned, that is really the core competence of us in our industry. So, because I don't think we can skew too much just with digitalization, AI, and machine learning.
Yeah, like I mentioned, I think what we did specifically, so just how our organization looked at this problem, was we removed all of the internal reporting requirements, because if you look at actions done inside the system, you can just track that instead of asking them to self-generate a report. So, and then you remove all of these other things that are also typically the responsibilities of these either marketing managers or branch managers, and you just say, okay, well, now that we're not requiring you to submit all of these reports, they're not tied to any core repertorial requirement, you can just go out and talk to your clients, and that's it. So from 8 to 5, that's what our marketing managers are doing now. Just talking to clients about their financial needs, about ways of solving their problems. And then they will just mostly encode those applications or requests on the system. And then there's someone in the back end at head office looking through those tickets.
Yeah, I'm Rafael from Oak Drive Ventures, and my question is about implementation. So, what are some challenges encountered during implementation or configuration? And how long did you do parallel testing with your existing system?
I don't really remember how long we did parallel. It was a long time, five years ago. But we started with one of the challenges. Maybe one is the data cleansing. That one we had to really have a team to do it. Otherwise, whatever you put in the garbage in, garbage out, right? So that one, how long we did parallel test? We didn't do parallel test right away. We were able to quickly use the system. I don't know if that's a good practice, but
High confidence.
we took the risk, and now we're here. We're still working.
300,000 later.
But we started because our operations was still small at that time. We have small data, and that's the beauty of it, because we already onboarded the system that we trust on. And so that was very easy for us to really make it to go live.
If you're looking for numbers, 15,000 clients, roughly 2 months. 2 months of parallel, and then roughly 4 months of 4 months of implementation.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay, while we wait for anyone else to join for the questions, I have one. So we mainly talked about efficiencies and improvement that happens within the institution. But could you maybe talk a little bit how it affected the clients themselves, right? Like, did you hear any positive feedback of maybe like faster loan processing or better customer experience by introducing the technology and systems? So if you can maybe touch base on that one a little bit.
Quick. Did you catch this? So a little bit more about the end client's experience for embracing this technology. What is the improvement for them, and do you have feedback how your end clients respond to all this change?
So our main goal at the very beginning is customer experience, and we want to make going back a simple and approachable financing solution. And how do you do that? You make the process very simple for them. Otherwise, they will just drop it because they don't understand. So how to measure that? It's really one measurement that we use is a turnaround time on servicing a client from loan acquisition, credit underwriting, etc. And we managed to shorten that from maybe 1.5 days to now maybe 5 hours to get a motorcycle. Our target is 2 hours. Maybe 50% of our clients now, we are able to provide motorcycle financing within 2 hours. But of course, it depends on how long they can provide their documents, etc. But if everything's smooth, we can do it in 2 hours because as I mentioned, from onboarding to loan booking, it's all integrated. So that I think is one thing that is of value to the customers or to the borrowers, because if they have to leave from work to be able to apply, to be able to get all these documents, etc. So that's also costly for them. So if you shorten that, then they don't have to take the day off to be able to just apply for a loan. So that's what we're trying to achieve,
So removing the anxiety reducing the time that they actually take out to complete a transaction. Thank you very much. I think as we bring this to a close, I'm sure you're sitting in the background, you're thinking about 2024, working with your teams. What are some of the takeaways that you would share with the audience for 2024? What are the guiding principles you're giving to your team, and what can you share as what's exciting about 2024?
I don't know if it's exciting, but for the past 2 years, the Philippines has been experiencing increases in cost of goods, right? And I guess the world is also experiencing a global economic slowdown, and lately we have all these geopolitical tensions. And I think for next year, we will still face higher prices of goods. And how do we deal with that, right? And I think the more important thing that we have to pay attention to is cost discipline. For us, it's one way to do that is to be able to find ways to make your operations more optimized. And of course, going back, the more technology will play a vital role in making this happen, and to stay afloat, to stay competitive, and to stay relevant in the market that we are in. But what's, I guess, good news is that I mentioned earlier, the Philippine market has a very young and dynamic market. And digital natives, think about digital natives, they're joining the workforce. They will require a lot of financial services. Then how do we capture and address their needs, their financial needs? And that's something that we have to look into. That's something that we have to, a lot of opportunities to do that. And these market, the digital natives, they demand accessibility. Then the more that you want to be present where they are, the more that you want to use technology to be able to capture and communicate with them. But another good news is that technology is becoming more and more democratized. It's becoming more accessible. It's way cheaper than probably 10 years ago. And so it's just a matter of, understanding your organization, understanding the needs of your customers to be able to determine the right technology for your company.
I don't have any insider knowledge about the macroeconomic position, but what does excite me is, to be honest, just the work in itself. And I think that there's something about the industry that we're a part of and the way that we impact our clients that, the question earlier was, how is this, what is the customer feedback? How is this improved kind of client perception of service? And I think just seeing that and seeing like a little bit more on just our client side, seeing improvement in satisfaction, to me, it's quite a leap because, maybe to tie it into those concerns that you've raised about the cost of living or the cost of goods going up, there's still some kind of sense of accomplishment when clients have good things to say about the partnership that they've engaged in with your institution, helping them with their small businesses, helping them with whatever personal consumption needs that they go through. So, as our organization grows and as our client base grows, the thing that excites me is just those customers.
So customers themselves and financial discipline, the guidance for 2024. Thank you very, very much. And I'll ask the audience to please thank our panelists.
Go further. Think bigger with Oradian. To find out more about the future of extensible banking, get in touch with our team today.